Former law clerk to Justice Neil Gorsuch and founder and president of the Article 3 Project, Mike Davis, will join us right now. So, Mike, how close are Republicans, do you think, to dropping some bombs on Biden with regard to, connecting the dots for people who aren't convinced yet that this isn't anything just other than going after Hunter Biden, the son, and not seeing the big picture of, hey, he was a vice president when all this happened, and he's the current president?
There is no question that the current president of the United States is compromised by tens of millions of dollars in foreign bribes and other corruption when Joe Biden was the vice president of the United States. And you're going to see stonewalling from the Biden administration and the Obama administration on the release of these emails. They're supposed to be accessible by the public under the Presidential Records Act 5 years after Biden left the vice presidency. And you're going to see Obama and Biden trying to come up with various different tricks so these emails do not come out. And this is why it's so important that House Republicans open an impeachment inquiry so they can plow through this obstruction by the Biden and Obama administrations.
And do you think it lands in the desk of your former boss, Neil Gorsuch, and the other 8 on the Supreme Court on what will be released and what won't?
I mean, it could, but it's actually so clear under the Presidential Records Act what is releasable and what's not. Essentially, it's 5 years after you leave office, your records are subject to public release under the Freedom of Information Act. There are 6 exceptions that the prior administration can invoke for up to 12 years. But I don't know I don't know what exception there could be for foreign bribes and other corruption and pay-for-play bribery schemes with the vice president of the United States. This is clearly a cover-up by the Biden administration and the Obama administration, and House Republicans need to get serious about this.
So, I mean, I think Comer's doing a good job and many others are doing their due diligence, but you have some in the Republican Party who are saying, impeach right now. You just said, they got to impeach, but when? When is the right time to do it? Because you don't want to be premature. You want to have everything laid out for what will be really a political campaign against him to really tell the American public why he's being impeached. So when is the right time?
It's the right time right now to open in the impeachment inquiry, because what you're going to get is the Obama and Biden administrations invoking executive privilege here, just a frivolous claim of executive privilege. Somehow it's executive privilege to sell access to the vice presidency. And so in order to get past those claims of executive privilege, you need an impeachment inquiry.
All right, let's also bring in Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. Now, Judicial Watch has at least 10 federal lawsuits focused on potential Biden family corruption. So, Tom, just going off of what Mike had said, the impeachment process, right now, Biden is underwater in every poll and really struggling with Democrats, too. Once an impeachment process begins formally, everything changes, right? And all of a sudden he could be, Grandpa Joe, who's going to start getting sympathy, and all the big issues that the Republicans have right now might go by the wayside. So do you think that, A, an impeachment is inevitable, and how many Republicans are going to be worried about actually having to do an impeachment next year when they're worried about themselves in re-election?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Republicans always say when it comes to accountability and impeachment. It's always, oh, we don't want to distract from other successful Republican issues that never really seem to be terribly successful. And the politics aside, there has to be a basic respect for the rule of law and ethics that require an impeachment inquiry. There's obviously it's a political process, but it's one that I think the American people want and demand and expect, given the gravity of the issues that have arisen as it relates to Biden family corruption. They can't avoid it. They may not like it politically, but it's something that has to be done because, dare I say it, putting on my political analyst hat, they will be destroyed by their own supporters if they don't proceed with substantial accountability, whether it be impeachment, defunding, shutting down these prosecutions, you name it. The American people, and certainly supporters of Republicans on the Hill, who they will rely on in 2024, they're not going to be there in 2024. I can guarantee you, if it's the same old oh, we'll take care of this in a year after the next election. It's not going to work anymore. It's not going to work. And McCarthy needs to get back in town immediately. If I were Speaker McCarthy, they're in the middle of a 7-week recess. Outrageous. They don't get back till September 12th. How about bringing Congress back just a day early and just pretend to be interested in some of these issues? And by the way, they don't even want to deal with the financial issues that they're pretending should take precedence. If they were serious about that, they'd already be here talking about it. They're coming back on September 12th for a financial fight that will end on September 30th, one way or the other, perhaps with the government shutdown. And they're telling us, well, that's more important than impeachment. Well, if it was more important than impeachment, then why aren't they here fixing it now, as opposed to taking 3 weeks to deal with trillions of dollars in government spending? You know, this game isn't going to work anymore with conservatives in America who want accountability and want to be protected from this assault on their basic fundamental rights to petition their government and speak out about election disputes and feel free to speak out without fearing censorship by the Biden administration. These are terrible times. It's about time we get some representatives in Congress who take it seriously and are willing to fire people in the House, in the agencies, impeach them, and defund their abuses.
Well, I know one guy who's not going to let them off the hook with regard to impeachment. That's Donald J. Trump. Mike Davis, Tom Fitton, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
Thank you.